All right, it is 12:20, and I'm going to get started here. First, I'm going to explain a little bit about lightning rounds. Basically, they are 5 minutes that you can get up and talk about anything you want. And it's kind of a fun thing. I mean, I know it sounds a little odd, but it actually ends up being kind of incredibly informative, it turns out, and a lot of fun. And I actually had people sign up partly because Peggy harassed them so much, and then I harassed a few too. So if you still want to sign up, you can. But as you see how it works, you can get excited about it because it's kind of fun. I'm going to start, and these are not, we don't even want necessarily, formed speeches. This is kind of a off the cuff, what do you think? So I've been thinking as I've been going to this conference, starting out with that panel yesterday, which I hope some of you saw, which was really powerful and amazing. And I've been thinking about, so much of this conference has been about engaging students. And that's amazing and awesome. You're talking to Tricia, and she was saying how amazing that was. What a great conversation that is. But what I've been noticing is how much it engages the faculty. And so when you're engaging the students, when you're doing something cool and amazing, and you're taking them to South America, and you're taking them to Africa and Europe, and you're doing all these things, and you're doing action-based learning, and you're doing game theory, and you're doing all this stuff, it's engaging you too. And I think that's something that's really important that we don't talk about very much, because a lot of educational theory says that students learn best when they are connected to the instructor and each other. That's a huge foundational element of education, right? And when we teach. And so the idea that you get jazzed about this and that it's exciting for you to do this is really important to teaching your students. And we don't always know that. We don't always think about that. In our plan and our goal to engage students, what's important is to find stuff that engages you, because you're never going to engage them if you're not excited. I mean, honestly, you can have an amazing lecturer, and it doesn't even matter what they're talking about. The students will become engaged because the class is amazing or the lecture is amazing, right? That's what it's about. And if you can have the most interesting, subject matter ever that just doesn't go anywhere because you're not excited about it. And so I think that it's something to keep in mind as you're going about this is, we've heard a lot of stuff about a lot of different ways of doing things, all kinds of different ways of engaging students, everything from games to service learning to study abroad stuff, all of these things. But the important thing is to find the one thing that engages you. Because if it seems like just overwhelming to do a study abroad, don't do that. If it's amazing for you to have a class where you have your students engaging in unique research, do that. It's all about what is engaging to you individually as instructors. And so I think that's all I have to say. And so I am now going to call up Callie, who's going to leave, and she is going to tell us a little bit about something she's thinking about.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Callie Nicholas, and I must confess I did not realize that signing up meant speaking, but I'm going to speak anyway. I am very fortunate. I'm starting my master's this semester with Rachel Watson as one of my co-committee chairs, and we are looking at active learning in the classroom, and specifically through the science initiative, and looking at a lot of these science courses and how active learning works in regards to how the students feel about it based off of survey data, and then also based off of observation data from a portal standardized assessment method that was created. And so we're getting some preliminary results in, and it has been confirms with what we have thought, but students love active learning, particularly students in diverse diverse backgrounds, and they want to see more of it in their classrooms. And so we are hoping to work with professors and instructors around the university over the summer and really get people to be more involved and see the benefits in active learning and learn how to incorporate it more into their classrooms. And hopefully we can see significant change as we look at pre and post tests in the future semesters. What else? That was really fast. One thing is that the limit is 5 minutes late. It can be shorter. Yeah. Okay. So, any questions? I'm going to pass. Thanks, Christy.
All right, Michael, you're up. He says he's going to talk about, adult learning, he says. What?
Probably has changed since then.
Probably has changed since then.
So I get notes.
There you go.
Otherwise, I might forget everything. I wanted to talk a little bit about a minor heresy, perhaps, but in situations like this, we tend to focus down on very specific things, and I wanted to go to more of a macro view. Back when dinosaurs ruled the earth, a friend of mine that went to law school said, Michael, they don't teach you the law here. They teach you to think like a lawyer. And that has always percolated through my life a little bit. If you think about the focus of an institution of medium or higher learning, the faculty is thinking about the class, the semester, and most of all thinking about the learning objectives. The institution is thinking about matriculation. And the student is thinking about the next assignment, the next test, the grade, and then vaguely down the road a grade point average and some credentials. And I want to look at it, perhaps an alternative way of paralleling that experience, perhaps subtext, and that is lifelong learning for the learner. And that has a lot of different areas. For one thing, am I getting countdown here? She'll tell me, she'll bring the hook. One thing is curiosity. And these are takeaway things that a person will carry through the rest of their life. And one thing about curiosity is you have to develop a love of having been wrong. And this is a huge emotional thing for a person to master if they're going to be a scholar. People in an institution, one part of what we're doing in subtext is creating an entire philosophy of learning that will last a person for the rest of their life. Autonomous development. The person is going to be looking at the tools, developing the tools, the heuristics, the critical measures that they will take through the entire rest of their life. And so they're going to have their own university after they leave the university or the high school where they're learning. And that is going to be their own library, which, by the way, is probably going to be digital. That's going to be their own advisement and evaluation because there's going to be nobody to do that for them. And it's going to be their own curriculum because they're going to have to decide what's useful and what's not useful. They're going to have to develop collaborative learning to survive. And that probably means technophilia. They're going to have to love technology. And that also in a parallel way, means they have to begin to love ambiguity and change. They're going to need communal problem solving, Dewey's dream of a democracy through learning. And finally, I think one of the things that we could be thinking about as we're working with learners is the takeaway relevance. In other words, what are the key perspectives from any semester that are going to be useful for the rest of their life? What is the essence of the discipline, even if that person is not going into that? Back in the late 60s, I could have given you a pretty cogent 25 minutes on Sumerian archaeology, but I didn't become an archaeologist, and you'd be surprised how little that comes up. But I took away a few things, mainly the advantages and what one has to give up, moving from being a nomad to a cosmopolitan person. And those few things are the keys that we use to build a tipping point that relate to all the other disciplines that we have to engage in our life. So, a thought.
See, and you thought these were just silly. Turns out they're awesome. And now we're going to have Jenica Fournier. Is that how you say it, Jenica? All right, Jenica. Sweet. She's a high school teacher. This is going to be awesome.
Like she said, my name is Jenica Fournier, and I'm a high school chemistry and biology teacher. This is my third time at this conference, and I love it so much because it's less about technology than it is about pedagogy. And so I always pull something, and it's cool because I'm not just talking to high school teachers or elementary teachers or college professors, it's everybody here. So last year, some women were talking about how to solve problems in their online course, and they ended up doing group testing, and which everybody was kind of like, what? You let them all do it together? How do you know that they did it? and they talked about their problems that they had with it and things that they got out of it. So what I took from that, I taught like an honors biology course, and it really followed like the same curriculum as maybe the intro level biology up here or an AP biology course. And at the end of the semester, I did a large group final, and it had about 7 questions on it, and they were questions that you could only ask at the end of the semester. So they were really overarching, they were very open, and they just had broad concepts in them that the kids had to work through what they knew. They could use anything but the internet, so each other, their notes, and they were in groups of 3, and I've never seen them connect concepts so well as when they did it together with all of their resources. So they had one big idea, and they were able to put everything that they knew into that idea. And little things like what kinds of cells have mitochondria? And they thought only animal cells, even though we had like a specific day where we talked about it. And they all were able to tell me on a different test that plant cells have mitochondria. But this one kid goes, what? Oh, I guess so. And he would have never done that without somebody else. Some other things that they gained from that is I put higher level students with lower level students. They were picked by me, and they were able to see another person take a test. And so how would somebody who's pretty successful on a test, how do they go about answering a question? And how do they go about formulating their answer and making sure that the answer matches what I'm asking for? So they were double checking each other, and they all had accountability the whole time as well. So that's what I took from this conference last year, and it's the best thing I've ever done for my kids. So.
Thank you so much. See, now I fully expect some of these to come back as actual presentations next year. Like that one, for example, would be an awesome presentation. All right, Trisha, who had her arm twisted pretty hard. You might see that it's still stuck back there, but here she goes.
And I have notes, so I must be really old too. I hate doing these things. So I've just been spending a little bit of time talking to everyone and thinking, where is this conference taking me? What's happening? And I value technology, but I think about 10 years ago when I got here, how scared I was of it. And I would come to things like this, and I would leave overwhelmed by all the shiny tools that people would show me and jump on and try to figure out how to use them, and often felt really insecure in the end about how I couldn't figure out how to do it or integrate it in the right way. And so over time, and what I've done is just take a step back from all that and really reflect a little bit more on my choices. Why do I do what I do? Focusing more on my pedagogy and my students. And I think that's something that I'm so impressed with what's happened here is not just what we can do, but why we're doing it. Who are those individuals that we're teaching every day? This is an institution of learning, and teaching is one part of that is so vitally important for them to learn. And so I think we need to spend more time with our students, asking them, listening to them, observing them. My background is 13 years of teaching very young children who had were really hard to have their voices heard. And I think our students have gone through 13 years of a school system that hasn't listened to them very well. And so it's really hard for them to feel like they have a voice and are valued again. So I come to these things and I get so excited about hearing all these, I call them case studies of what people are doing, even outside my discipline, but the passion that people have for their content and the passion that I have for my content, that's what inspires me about improving my teaching, and I can draw so much from that. So I'm excited about who my students are, where they're coming from, all the great things I can learn from them to be the best teacher I can be for them. But it's exciting that we kind of are redeveloping a learning community here where we all see each other as bringing something really valuable and important. And that commitment to our students is something that I hope that all of us can, work together and grow more. And I love to see students here. Their voices were so valuable over the past couple days, and I hope we see more of that.
All right, rolling along. Rebecca also has a twisted arm as well. So we'll have her come up and say something. All right.
I'm getting here slow, my back's towards. Okay, so Peggy twists really hard. If you have survived that, you will know. So listening to all of the conversations and participating in the different presentations, a lot came back to me about how active all of the faculty and instructors and students are by being here, and how actively involved you are in the students' performance and their goals and how they're going to succeed in life. And so it made me think of this wonderful quote by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who is one of my favorites since way back. The best moments in our lives are not the passive, receptive, or relaxing times. The best moments usually occur when a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. And I think that that's what every faculty and instructor does. They stretch the limits, and then their students stretch with them. So.
These are really good. These are even better than last year when I had to actually drag people out of chairs, literally. So this is great. Mary Keller is up. She said she was going to kind of tackle something really simple that would be really short and no problem at all, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, in the 2 minutes since I walked in, I've done that. So I'm somebody who sees myself as the frog in the kettle that is slowly warming, who never jumps out, right? Because it's all turning up so slowly. So that's how I experience myself. And at 51, I would rather experience myself as more agentive than that. But the larger issues that face us right now are so much bigger than me, and I'm referring specifically here to climate change, that I feel like the frog in everything I do. And with every course I set up, I'm setting up my little frogs to sit in the kettle with me, because we are not changing radically the energy use and community organization for how we will live our next day. So this is a pretty rough place to be at 51, instead of feeling like I'm setting them off for the kind of success that will allow them to adapt well. And so integrating issues of climate change and social organization in classes that are already ambitious is hard. How would I do that? And I've begun. One of the things about working in a university environment that's hopeful is to be connected to so many hardworking, problem-solving people. And the kind of intelligence I see and have seen since our very first panel is one of those things that gives me a great deal of joy. Because if you're going to be a frog, you might as well have joy while you're there. It's good to be green, right? But I'm also incredibly disheartened by the speed and seriousness with which this university is addressing this issue. That is, we're sitting in a nicely accommodated room on the warmest weekend following the last 2 hottest years on record. And you do look good in turquoise blue. You know, that there's this sense of we just keep meeting and doing stuff like the frogs in the kettle to me. So I'm ready for our university to be absolutely zero. And when I was in the 80s, when I was first learning about climate change, I certainly figured that by the 90s, the grown-ups would have this thing under control. And just imagine what 2008 and 2012 elections were like for somebody who thought that by the 90s the grown-ups would have taken control. So this kettle is a pretty uncomfortable spot. My hero right now, one of my heroes, is Guy McPherson. And his book, Walking Away from Empire, describes his need to leave the university in order to become a full-time grown-up. That is, to educate and activate regarding climate change. And when our first panel started, there was a part of me, I am always questioned then as this frog, since that's how I see myself, as will I walk away from empire because empire requires the kinds of energy that we all use. Will I walk away from empire, or will I keep working with people and students who give me joy? But when I watched that first panel, not only was I moved by the work of the people there, but I also saw the Hunger Games, right? I saw the introduction to that panel. I saw Caesar Flickermeister, is that his name? Caesar, the guy who interviews? I saw him setting up us as the heart of an empire game that's really going to leave our children fighting for their lives. So that's the word from the frog in the room. Thank you.
See, I told you she had nothing serious to say at all. And okay, so Rhonda? Rhonda, you're up, girl.
Hi, my name is Renda Jabbour, so it's pronounced like Brenda without the B, but it doesn't look that way, just to confuse everybody. I wanted to introduce myself. So I am in my 3rd year here as an assistant professor in the plant sciences department in the College of Agriculture. I am definitely passionate about trying to teach effectively and incorporate active learning and many of the things that have been talked about. This is my first time at this conference. And basically, I wanted to do the lightning round thing to tell you guys about this new project that I'm about to embark on. So I teach about agriculture, specifically the ecology of agricultural systems. So how all the different things interact and how we as humans interact with them, how farmers make the decisions that they do, all things like that. And so specifically in our department, there was a need for someone to teach an organic food production class. And I know all those things, I can do these things, and it's been taught online in the past and will continue to be, which is going to be all new for me. But one of the things folks have talked about a lot, even just in these lightning rounds, is this importance of collaboration. And so one of the problems we have is that this is actually a specialty topic. Everyone has kind of heard of organic, but many people do not know what that actually means, what it really takes to do that, how we can teach our students in ways that will help them to either be able to do this or decide that they don't want to do it, or to be able to support farmers when they're in those kind of support roles as extension agents or soil conservation professionals or whatever. And there's interest in this all across the country. So we have this need that students have. We have faculty who are not necessarily equipped to teach this. We have faculty who are really resource limited, can't take the time to learn how to do these things. So basically, we just found out that we got a proposal funded where we're going to be working with a team of instructors from around the country to interview them and find out what are the most important things that you think students should know. How can we develop kind of modular curriculum that's available online so that you can incorporate it into your classes in ways that make sense? How can we do this in ways where you will actually do that? Because I think it's easy to say, we're going to make this curriculum and put it out there and people will use it. And that's not true. And then, one of the reviews from the funders, one of the reviewers said, you don't really talk in this proposal at all about diversity of students and how you're going to deal with diverse student populations and how are you going to make sure that this works for different student groups. So we're going to really make an effort to reach out to people at different types of institutions to test this out. And so, so I feel like I'm about to walk off this cliff to do this thing with like 30 other faculty members, and I'm really excited about it, but also really appreciative of all the different things people have shared at this meeting and will share this afternoon, because I basically need all the good ideas I can get. So thank you very much, and good to meet you.
All right, that is everybody that has signed up. If you volunteered sort of voluntarily or had your arm twisted and signed up and you do not have a book and you can't do the book review or book, whatever we're calling it, discussion, thank you, book discussion, I'm going to give you a book anyway. So if you don't have a book, you can go over there and get a book only if you volunteered. So now is your opportunity to volunteer again. If anybody else has anything else they would like to add, we would love to hear. We've had some, so the interesting thing about these is we always have a little trouble getting people going, but they turn out to be really cool and valuable, as I think you found. People have said some really awesome, great things, and so, I think that's a really valuable thing. So if you have anything that's really valuable and cool and awesome, or just something, now's your chance, or not. Or we can call it a day. We had some good ones. Oh, yeah, we got one. All right, come on up, Diane. She just wants the book.
I have a book, so this is totally altruistic and crazy. I'm Diane Gorski from the Department of Zoology and Physiology, and I have a little anecdote to tell. Earlier this semester, I started to get emails from my advisees that said, "We'd like to meet with you." And I said, "Okay, what would you like to meet about?" Well, my first-year seminar teacher told me I should get to know my advisor, or I was at some other orientation. I have 80 some years I have 120 freshmen, but I have 80. So it's the first week of classes, it's crazy. So I send them this carefully crafted email that says, basically, if you need something from me about drop an ad or that's absolutely immediate, please let me know and make an appointment. If you need to meet with me about something that's not immediate, I can meet with you after September. It was the week of September, 14th. Drop an ad into the 10th, whatever day that was. Because I wanted to say to them, I can't see all of you now to get to know you and chat that first week. So some of them did need drop an ad help. I took care of them. And I sent this email out, and I started last week to get emails from students or have them drop by and say, well, I guess we need to set up our appointment. I said, well, what do you want to talk about? Well, you sent us an email and said, we need to meet. And at that point, I went, ah! And what did I write? So I went back and looked at the sent email, and no, I had not written we need to meet. But what they saw were the words advising, meeting, week of September 14th, Diane. So they saw these random words that they did not, what do you call it? What's the screen word? The nonlinear reading, the screen searching. They looked at those words, reassembled them as an image, and then made their own meaning of them. So I'm currently fascinated with this literacy issue, and it's the same thing with our physiology courses. When I write 0.073 mole of sodium chloride, molar sodium chloride, I see a capital M, NaCl. They don't see a solution with stuff in it. They see a 0, a dot, an M somewhere, a capital letter N. They don't. Their literacy, their screen or written literacy has really changed. And I've started to notice this lately. So this is currently one of my mini fascinations is literacy in terms of both print versus online and paper, just paper in general, and just words, and how to write something, how to communicate with my advisees and have them see what I need.
Anyone else want to jump up? Did Mary leave? I was going to have a follow-up story for Mary. Unfortunately, she's left, but I'm going to tell you the story follow-up story anyway. Rachel has made a a couple references, and we're going to talk about this, I think, after the session, about the class we taught where we went to Slovakia, took our ski team to Slovakia, and we taught a class, which was the environmental impacts of an international sporting event. And it was an amazing class. There's a lot of cool to talk about it. 5 minutes is not going to cover it, so I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to talk about a little bit. Oh, there's Mary. Good. So she's back. Mary actually helped us with this. She actually was our outside reviewer of our projects, one of our outside reviewers. This was a response to your talk, Mary. One of the things that struck me when she said, well, a lot of things struck me when she was talking, but one of the things that struck me was we prepared an immense amount of curriculum and a lot of planning, and we had this incredible setup, and we did all this planning, but we did not plan for the depression, the reality of what they were doing when they were trying to do ski racing in a world that the ski racing was going away for them, right? This was a problem for them, and we didn't plan for that. And they talked a little bit about in this panel too, right? The sorrow of these things that they're dealing with, these really hard topics, and they're incredibly engaging. I mean, we have had so much feedback from these athletes since about how, I mean, some of them are like, I'm trying to find a grad school where I can do, you know, the carbon offsets. He's in economics. He wants to figure out about carbon offsets. That's what he wants to do now. That was what he did for his project. So that was really cool, but the problem at the time was we didn't have any mechanism for that. We had no idea that was going to happen. And what really struck me was, as Mary's saying, when she was a teenager, she thought the adults would figure this out. Our kids still think the adults are going to figure this out. When Mary talked to them, when the author of the book that we read came and talked to them, they said, we screwed this up, we're not going to figure this out. And you have to figure this out. And when you think about these topics, when you think about these really important, meaningful, transformative experience for these students, you need to think about what you're doing to them too. And it's good. I'm not saying it was a bad thing, but you need to consider that. It's not just teaching in a classroom. When you start opening these other doors, you have other things come through it. And it's important to realize that. They're good. They make for incredibly meaningful, important things, but it's important to realize that it's not going to be like, I think Sarah Robinson said, you have this whole new relationship, right? In the panel, she was talking about how you have this different relationship. They tell you things that they don't tell you in a classroom, because you're spending all day with them. That's what happens, and you just have to be prepared for that. And so that really struck me when you said that, because our kids were like, I think the adults should figure this out. And we're like, that's going to be you. You're going to have to do that. So anyway, I thought I would just do that, throw that out there. Anybody else want to jump in here? We don't have to fill time. I just wanted to share that one, so I wasn't trying to fill time, really. Although I'm really good at that. I'm almost as good as Reed. Not quite. Do you want to say anything, Reed? Okay, all right. You want to?
Well, I'll
Okay.
say something just real quick. Of course, you're giving me a platform, but I go to a lot of conferences. It's part of what I do, actually. And I think this is a great conference. And I think it's also a great opportunity, after hearing Michael and Mary and a lot of others point out some of the bigger issues. I think it's really important that we also, as academics, are advocates for these broader social issues. And some of you have heard me refer to this article many a time, so you can roll your eyes and say, there he goes again. But Henry Giroux wrote an article 25 years ago. It was called Teachers as Transformative Intellectuals. And what his point was is that it's not enough to be a good technician. It's not enough to demonstrate technology and the bells and whistles of teaching and learning. We have to be advocates. Not only, we have to be advocates beyond our classroom for teaching and learning. And if we advocate to get together and share information and improve our craft, some of these larger social issues will begin to be addressed. And so what I'd ask you is to take a look at that article. It's Giroux, Henry Giroux, and Teachers as Transformative Intellectuals. There are a lot of them in this room that I admire tremendously and have inspired me to keep going as a stodgy administrator that supports these types of faculty. But please think about your role in advocating for teaching and learning. If you, for example, a lot of us I guess all of us are in educational institutions. We're in a time right now of scarce resources and multiple priorities. Advocate for the priorities that you need and you want. Support for this beautiful ECTL that we have here on campus is one thing that we can do. Support for the outreach school that sends distance education. Support for teachers in school districts that are hard-pressed for time and are seeking opportunities to enhance their professional development and expand their networks. Advocate for community colleges like LCCC that they have so many wonderful leaders. And I'm looking at my friend Les Balsiger, a very inspiring, active leader. And excuse me, we're so grateful that he is here with his colleagues and contributing to this conference. So there I go again. I said I wouldn't participate in the lightning round, but I did it. So just think about that, transformative intellectuals, be advocates. All of you are more than talented enough. I sit and listen to advocates all day long that want some kind of resource or some kind of advantage. And I very seldom get to hear people that speak from the heart like you all do, that really have the ability to make a difference. So thank you for being here, and there's my minutes up. Yeah.
And that may have been the briefest talk he's ever given. No, I'm kidding, Reed. He always has pearls of wisdom. Okay, anybody else? This is your last chance. I will not harass anymore past this moment. Yes, Meg. Meg is going to go. Yes. You're going to time yourself?
I'll time myself. So last year when we did lightning rounds, nobody signed up, and Christy twisted my arm, and I, in the clutch, stood up and said something, and I can't remember what it was, and it probably wasn't very meaningful. So this year I said, no way, I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing. But I can't resist, after listening to the themes that have been coming out over the last couple of days. I'm always looking at themes and what I call consistent threads. I've hopped in and out of a lot of sessions. Yesterday I was in the first session about gaming. And I was there when we were asked to talk about why we think we as faculty teach the way we do, right? Stand up and pontificate. And many of us came up with the answer, obvious answer, that we teach the way we were taught, right? But I watch all of us sitting in this room being learners and thinking about learning from each other and from these wonderful presentations. And it dawns on me that one of the things that we need desperately as teachers is permission to take this learning opportunity and this learning stance into the classroom. Oops, I'm timing myself. Okay, I'm okay. Into the classroom and learn from our students and invite our students to teach us, which is, as Michael said, the point of everything we do, which is this opportunity to be lifelong learners, to help groom our students so that they will become lifelong learners. And part of that means being willing to say to our students, I don't know. So I'm here to say, I don't know.
All right, see, I'm doing well here. Anybody else? No one else. That's really it. I know there's people in this room that really have a lot to say because you have told me a lot of stuff. So, All right, I won't harass anymore. I'm just gonna say that at 1:40, so you have a really nice long break. I recommend going outside and taking a walk, but you know, whatever floats your boat will be fine. And then we're gonna have the last. There's 4 sessions left. There's not 4 individual sessions left. There's 4 altogether left, and there's some really good ones still. We actually have in here being recorded is the climate competition curriculum and culture collide, which is part of it is what I was talking about with the class that we taught in Slovakia, but the other part of it is Rachel's capstone class. So, and actually that's supposed to be kind of hands-on. We're going to have you kind of help you walk through how you might design a class that way. And then we're going to have a really cool, I don't know what it is, but I'm really fascinated, which I'm not going to get to see because I'm going to be up here, augmented reality sandbox for advanced earth sandbox. They're actually building a sandbox downstairs right now, so you should check that out. Totally think that's cool. Although I think you should totally stay for mine too. So whatever works for you. And then in 216 we've got live streaming tools, which Tamara is going to be doing. Right there. I saw her somewhere. I'm like, where is she? And she's going to be doing that. And so she's going to be showing you some cool live streaming tools. And following her is collaboration, technology, and service learning. And these guys actually did this TNT project for us and a teaching technology project for us. And it was actually really great. If you're interested in doing any kind of service learning, they did a really nice job. And so. Thank you very much for your attention, and have a good afternoon, and go take a walk for a few minutes. All right.